Welcome, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Unmanned Uncovered. This is your host, Stephen Gloss, drone subject matter expert consultant, content creator, and podcast producer for Consortiq, a company built to help you discover a better way to do things with drones. With me on today's show is Wyatt Filipowicz. Wyatt is the chief remote pilot from Consortiq and is the newest addition to the Consortiq team. He's no stranger to unmanned operations, having collected thousands of hours of flight time over his career thus far. Wyatt Filipowicz, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. How you doing, Wyatt?
Good, Stephen. Thanks for taking the time to have me on.
Yeah, definitely. It's so great to have you here. Well, thanks to COVID-19 and really just how much of the world has shifted to remote working, I haven't really been able to meet you in person quite yet. So this introduction for you on today's show is very much how we became acquainted not so long ago. With that, I'll let you take center stage for just a bit, give you a chance to introduce yourself, share some unique highlights, and we'll dig further into your background and your role with Consortiq from there. How's that sound, Wyatt?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, let's start with this then. How did you first begin flying drones? And at what point did you decide that you wanted to find a way to fly drones for a living, to make a career out of it?
I first got into drones back when I was doing roofing sales and had some pretty near calls on ladders. Actually fell off one or two and broke a bone here or there. And
wow.
And quickly figured out that, man, there's got to be a better way of getting a look at a roof other than climbing up a ladder in the rain or wet feet. Somehow or another, I think I was actually at Sam's Club. I saw a DJI drone in there and I was like, man, this is a ticket.
There you go.
Bought it up as quickly as I could and figured it out and started using it to look at roofs. Man, it just took off after that. I realized, like, wow, there's going to be so many things out there you can do with drones. Like, it's going to explode. And just knew, like, I had to change what I was doing. Had to get into them somehow or another.
Yeah, that was the moment when you finally could watch those Aflac commercials where the guy's falling off his ladder and realize he could save some money.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like if you read the article that's on our website at consortiq.com, you can actually learn a bit about your background and how you started getting engaged with drones. But how did you go from that moment there, from realizing I can look at rooftops, to actually doing, like, flying drones for actual work?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of stuck with the part-time roofing thing and started using drones more often, looking at ways I could get in. And of course, like most people do, I got into real estate, started finding some realtors I could get in with and take pictures, and just, like I said, I look for any market I could get into that I could get work and start making money. And this was, of course, before they even came out with the 107 at the time.
Right.
I think they came out with the 331 or something like that, where you had to get like a hot air balloon license or something like that in order to make money with a drone. But it wasn't too long after that some hurricanes started hitting, and I got a call from a buddy of mine that said that somebody he knew was putting a team together to go respond to hurricane disaster. And that just, like, piqued my curiosity. And it's like, I'm in, I'm there, whatever you need.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, I packed up the car and took off and headed for chasing after a hurricane.
That's pretty awesome. It sounds like you essentially became one of the few experts on utility inspections due to just really not there being many people doing it at that time. What were some of the biggest hurdles you had to overcome when it came to doing those kind of inspections and after damage assessments? Is it one of those cases, if you can do one type of mission, does that mean you can essentially do anything with the drone?
People think that, but it's not necessarily the case. At the time, like, one of the biggest hurdles would have been regulatory airspace. When you get natural disasters, of course, first thing they do, it seems like, is they drop a TFR over top of the area. I mean, nobody can fly unless you're governmental,
right?
And they lock the airspace down. So that was really a big trick, getting through that, working through the red tape, because at the time nobody really knew about drones all that much. They weren't into first responders, normal workflow. It was something completely different. So you had to figure out how to work through the red tape and get the proper authorizations just to go in and respond. Yeah, that was probably the biggest hurdle we had to overcome was that at the time.
And what's the biggest difference between doing one mission, like, let's say flying for real estate, as opposed to doing a after damage assessment for hurricane? What are some of the biggest differences there? Or you can use any example.
If you take real estate, you're out, you're going to be in perfect weather, you're kind of in one spot, you're what you're getting into. You got to get pretty pictures of a place and surrounding property, but in a hurricane or disaster scenario, when you're coming in after the fact, you got roads that are blocked, trees down everywhere, live power lines laying on the ground, standing water, sewage, snakes. In our case, you could actually, smell bodies.
Oh, wow.
And they had cadaver dogs out when we were out there. So we were not only looking for power lines, but helping find things like that as well.
Yeah.
One scenario to the next can be completely different. You could have a guy out in Oklahoma doing methane gas detection where it's an automated mission, and he's working from the back of his car with a laptop, and a partner and staring at a screen, versus the guy that's out in California inspecting utility structures, and he's walking around and he could stumble across a 6-foot rattlesnake wrapped up underneath a bush that you don't even see, and he's walking right next to it, could get bit.
Yeah.
So they're one type of flight doesn't always work for another.
Right.
It's definitely something you need to get experience and almost specialize in.
Wyatt, how did you end up with your current role here at Consortiq? And has there been anything about this company that has been a surprise to you?
Me working for Consortiq was really just luck and timing. Honestly, I was out in California wrapping up a round of a couple of months of utility inspections, and I reached out to Consortiq because I wanted to get further certified. There's a lot of people jumping in the drone industry, and we need higher standards. So,
right, yeah.
Of course, I come across the AUVSI top certification, which sounded like it was pretty good to me. It kind of differentiated you from the everyday guy that's out flying whatever. So I contacted Consortiq because they were one of the actual training providers for AUVSI top. And just through talking to them, I got to talking to Ben, and he told me that they had just recently lost their chief UAS pilot. So of course, I said, hey, put me in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it took several months, but through connecting with Bryce over in the UK and everybody else, we got it all set up, and it lined up perfectly.
Yeah, that's awesome. Has there been anything that's really stood out that's, sort of surprised you, or you found kind of, just different from other companies you've worked with?
Yeah, I'm used to working as a contractor, and I've worked with some other companies that have been great, but coming into Consortiq, I was just kind of shocked to see that even, amongst COVID and remote working, they were still very much a team. Very supportive, focused, driven, and they're not just looking at the job that's there right now. They're planning for the future. Like they're looking at the next steps. What's going to be the big thing? Who are going to be the big clients? Where's it going? And I totally wanted to end with that. I want to fly by the seat of your pants, worry about the next job right now. I want to look down the road and have a future. And that's definitely where Consortiq's at.
Well, along the way, you've accumulated thousands of hours of flying time with drones. You'd assume that maybe you've had everything, you've learned all that there is to learn. But is there anything that you're still currently learning about drones? And if you can fly one type of drone, this is kind of like one of the previous questions, but if you can fly one type, does that mean those skills will translate well to the next type of brand, or is every instant going to be different?
Every instance going to be a little different. The basic flight principles are the same, but of course remotes change, the shape of the drone, the size changes. So a lot of your basic skills do transfer over, but yeah, it takes a little getting used to change platforms, how they're going to work. That's not a huge struggle, at least not for most people, as far as I can see. As far as training goes, yeah, this is a ever-changing landscape for us with the drones. It's, you blink your eyes and the drone you just dump 20-30 grand on is already outdated, and it just came off the shelf, like a couple weeks ago, it seems like. So
yeah,
it's a race to keep up with the times and keep up with the technology. I've always been sort of on the data collection side, out doing inspections, performing that work, doing the capture side. So now I'm trying to focus some of my efforts into what happens after that, taking the actual data, learning the processing side of things to get a better deliverable for our customers.
Right.
And another one that falls right into that is like doing thermography training. I've used thermal cameras and I've flown thermal missions, but I couldn't exactly read a thermal readout and tell you exactly what I need to look for. So I'm taking a class for that to be certified for thermography as well.
Get the data that's most important to you and your organization with unmanned data services from Consortiq. From utility inspections to construction project surveys, our remote pilots will utilize the latest drone technology to give you the most precise and accurate information safely, quickly, and within your budget. Let us do the work for you. Schedule a consultation now at consortiq.com.
I'm pretty sure that one of the roles that you have currently with being the chief remote pilot is also some instruction for some of our clients and for the students that we interact with.
Yep.
What is it like being on the other side of the classroom now, like being an instructor? Did you ever have to participate in any formalized drone training prior to this role? And what was that like for you?
Yeah, the only formal training I did really was after my first hurricane. We did a training class for several days for cell tower inspections, because when you get a hurricane, that's one of the things that gets damaged quite a bit is actually the cell towers that get all blown around.
Yeah.
So I did a pretty in-depth training for that. But other than that, it's all been self-taught and working with other people that in the industry and reading and just on-the-job training pretty much.
Yeah.
As far as the teaching goes, yeah, I mean, I've now assumed one of the roles of an instructor, and I like it. It's definitely different. I'm not used to the classroom setting so much. I have trained quite a few people out in the field, hands-on, and shared knowledge that way. But being on the classroom side of things, it's a little different, but still very enjoyable. I like sharing my experience and also hearing from the other people, because a lot of the clients that we get, they're not green, they're not exactly brand new to the drone industry, and they've got their own insights as well. So I mean, you sometimes learn almost as much, if not more, from your students as you do as they do from you.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome.
So it works out great as long as you can keep sharing knowledge with other people. Yeah. Steering them in the right direction.
Part of what we do at Consortiq is we look beyond just the continental United States, and we're actually doing missions really all over the world. What are some of I'm not sure how much you've been integrated with that as of yet, but what are some of the biggest obstacles you'll foresee facing when it comes to doing drone operations in foreign countries?
Right now, one of the biggest things I can see being a problem is with COVID, the travel restrictions. We've got some training coming up here soon, and one of our people that's coming over has to go self-quarantine in a completely different country, in order to come over to the US, for 2 weeks. So it's quite a big deal. With all the travel restrictions, that makes it difficult. I don't think the FAA has any kind of testing centers outside of the United States or continental US. So that makes it a bit difficult too. I mean, you can train people as much as you want, but in order for them to become certified in the US, they still have to come back here, just to get their actual pilot license.
Right. Yeah. And what about drone regulations? What do you anticipate, the hiccups and hurdles you'll face as regards to that?
For foreign countries?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too difficult. I mean, I'm working on getting my Canadian certifications right now.
Nice.
And, a lot of what we do carries over to them as far as our regulations and the testing. I think it should honestly be a bit more like the UK has theirs, to where you actually do a proficiency test, an actual hands-on flight test would be great to see for the US.
Yeah.
Because, right now, I mean, you can literally take your test and get your UAS license without actually putting your hands on a drone.
Yeah.
It's all theoretical. So it'd be nice to see a practical knowledge test and actual flight assessment.
Yeah, I've stressed that a lot on this show over the past several months, and totally agree with you. I'm hoping that we're headed that way here in the near future.
Me too.
Well, but it comes to getting just to know about you, Wyatt, I've got a few questions to wrap this up about just, sort of some things that make you tick and some of your personal insights. What is your favorite drone to fly and why?
My favorite is going to be the M600.
Yeah.
DJI Matrice 600. It's big and scary, and it draws a lot of attention. Most people, well, I'm not going to say most, but there's a good amount of people out there that are kind of scared to fly one of those. I personally was too the first time, but honestly, I think they're easier to fly than the little drones. They look pretty cool up there. They can stay up for a long time and carry a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. Very, very smooth aircraft.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that one as well. Do you have any pre-flight rituals that you practice, aside from maybe a checklist that, get you into the right mindset before a mission, like something you do in your car, or just, is there anything that you go through like that in your mind before you head out?
I try and think about the last time I flew, if anything odd happened with the craft that I'm using.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know when my mind's not turning about drones or thinking about it unless it's in my sleep. So I think I'm constantly running through my rituals. I don't think I ever get off of one.
I think Consortiq may have found the right person to be the chief remote pilot. That's great. Well, what has been the most rewarding element of being a drone pilot? Outside of Consortiq, even like just your entire career this far. What's really been a big the motivating factor for you to keep pursuing this?
I'm hoping that eventually my kids will get into it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build and keep a career in there myself and keep up with the technology and pass it off to my kids. And I don't see the drone industry going anywhere. It's here to stay.
Right.
So I'm hoping to pass that legacy down myself.
That's pretty cool. Has there been one of those like aha or like this was all worth it sort of moment for you, maybe during like after damage assessment from a hurricane, or was there a moment where you really felt like your skills as a drone pilot made a significant difference?
Man, not that I can think of offhand. I know, yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a seriously rewarding career so far. I mean, it's been all worth it, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to be in it.
So let's just fast forward to the future. Let's see if you can take us there, Wyatt. How do you foresee drones making an impact on society as a whole? This whole theme of difference making. Will it be predominantly through a delivery service like we see through Amazon and UPS, or could it be something else we just haven't even envisioned yet? Like, what's your take on this?
Yeah, it's so hard to say. I mean, I watch so many different things and see different news. I mean, it looks like we're already at the time of if you remember the cartoon, the Jetsons.
Yeah.
We're already there with robots and drones flying around, and now you got drone taxis that are being starting to get produced and come out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a crazy sort of future, no doubt. But yeah, like I said, I don't see drones going anywhere. They're going to be used in so many different ways. Already are, saving lives, helping make things better.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Well, Wyatt, it's been an absolute blast having you on the show. Really this has been great for me to learn more about you as a new coworker. And I'm sure it's been great for our audience today, getting to learn more about what you do, what Consortiq does as a whole with drone training and consulting and flying and just the whole gamut. Do you have any closing comments before we wrap the show up?
No, I mean, thanks for having me on here. I definitely appreciate it. Hopefully anybody else is out there that's getting into drones. I mean, it's definitely an awesome field to get into it, be responsible, use it the right way. Don't be scared of the drone and go out there and do good with them.
I love it. Well, thank you, Wyatt, and thank you to all those listening to another episode of Unmanned Uncovered. This episode was brought to you by Consortiq. Consortiq specializes in drone services, remote pilot training, and UAS consultancy designed to provide you with safer, more efficient surveys and inspections. Go to consortiq.com right now. That's consortiq.com right now and find a better way with drones. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, share, and review the show. Your support makes all the difference in helping me uncover all there is to know about unmanned systems. That's all for this week. Stay tuned for next week's edition. And until next time, safe flying, everyone.